Hello and welcome to a TSCAD development update. Today we're going to take a look at a few new features and review a couple of features that we've looked at before. We're kind of looking at this video as an all-inclusive, looking at everything all combined together as we're getting closer and closer to having the final dispatching software solution here for TSCAD. And the first thing we're going to look at today, as we zoom in a little bit here, we're going to talk first off about track tags. You see we've got two trains, one east, one west. If we look at their symbols, we've got a Z train that's coming east out of Sanborn, and we have got a manifest that's headed west out of Hutt. And what we're going to do first off here is with that westbound, we're going to realize, you know what, we don't actually want to head down the main Jim Gray. We're going to put him in the siding. First off, he probably couldn't reach boron ahead of our Z train anyway, but even if he could, we want to keep the boron siding open for the boron local. And as a little reminder for that, we're going to add a non-restrictive track tag. And F4 is going to be our hotkey to get there. It changes our cursor to say info with a little tag symbol. We're going to come up to the siding and we're going to click on it. That brings open our track tag dialog here, and we're just going to simply say keep clear for boron local. And it's not restrictive. We could make it restrictive if we wanted to, but we're not going to. So it's just some simple other specific instructions. A little note for us. We hit done, and you'll see that a little track tag, a 1 in a lime colored box appears. That's an indicator that it's a non-restrictive track tag, and if we mouse over there now, you'll see that we actually get that info, the dispatcher who created it and the time, and to keep clear for boron local. So just a little tag giving us a little information about that. So with that in mind, we do not want our westbound to continue at Jim Gray, so we're actually going to go ahead and knock down that signal and confirm that we want to knock down the westbound control signal at East Jim Gray. And we're going to hit Control W over here to our stack command, and we'll stack a signal into the siding. So that'll set up in 5 minutes after we're done running time at East Jim Gray. All right, the next thing that we're going to take a look at, some more track tags up here. We're going to look at our maintainer up here at Silt. And this maintainer, Foreman Jones, he's out there doing some patrolling, and it is summertime. And as a result, it gets quite hot, and not unexpectedly, sometimes some sun kinks develop. And that's been the case here. As Foreman Jones has been out patrolling, he has found a sun kink. It's around milepost 793, as he's calling it in. So we're going to need to set up a speed restriction, and the hotkey for that is F2. That changes our cursor to show speed with the little tag indicator. And we can mouse over our main line to find the correct location. So this is milepost 794 to 796.3. Here's 792 to 794, and he said it's at milepost 793. So we're going to click right there, and we're going to bring up our track tag creation here for a restriction. You'll notice that now check if restrictive tag. That is checked because this is going to be restrictive. And Foreman Jones is telling us it's going to be 10 mile an hour slow order. It's going to be at milepost 793 to milepost 793.1. And there are no flags that have been set up trackside for that, so we need to check that to indicate it. And we'll go ahead and click done here. And this is going to create this little turquoise colored tag now, as opposed to the lime colored tag. The lime colored tag was an indicator that it was not restrictive, and this actually is restrictive. In fact, we'll say that there are 2 sun kinks out there that were discovered, and we'll add a second one here. So we'll go ahead and go into our track tag again, and we're going to bring that up, and it's also 10 mile an hour, and this one was milepost 793.5 to 793.6, and again, no flags are displayed. And so when we do that, you notice now we have a 2 in that little tag because we have 2 restrictive tags. And if we mouse over, we can see that we have track and time in that block. And we also have 2 speed restrictions. We can see the dispatcher that created them, the time that they were created, date and time, and we can see 10 mile an hour for both passenger and freight. That's the 2 10s. And then we get the milepost for those speed restrictions all showing up quickly in our little tooltip right there. And we do have that Z train coming now. He's about to be charging his way out of Bissell. So as a result, our foreman is making his way toward the clear at Silt, and he requests that west switch. And we'll go ahead and throw it. And he's going to request some track and time in the siding. So we'll go ahead and grant that. So we'll go ahead and create some track and time for Foreman Jones, and we'll give him until this afternoon. There's nothing super urgent that we need silt for. So we'll go ahead and get this to him. Track and time 1004, granted on siding track between west silt switch no and east silt switch no, joint until 1500. Click OK. And very good, that's been created now. And with that track and time and with the track, I'm sorry, the turnout reverse there, he's going to go ahead and start making his way into the clear. Like so, and that is obviously an issue that's going to need to be resolved. Obviously, development is still ongoing, so we're going to come across little tiny glitches like that from time to time, but not to worry, they will be resolved. So we'll go ahead and get Foreman Jones all the way into the clear over here into the siding at silt. Okay, that's good. And he's now reporting clear, so of course we can hit F6 to find the track and time, or we can right click here, we can come down to track and time and report clear. So Foreman Jones is reporting clear between East Edwards switch no, westbound control signal, west silt switch yes. At 11:23, that is correct. Now, as soon as that track and time has been cleared, you'll notice that the block of track with the restriction stays a turquoise color. And that's just an extra indicator that there's something going on right there that the dispatcher needs to be concerned with, because we got to make sure that we give those speed restrictions to our Z train that's coming out of Bissell. And how that's going to work is right now when we go to align that signal, we're going to get this dialog, and it's going to be notifying us. Have you or have the following track restrictions been issued to the train this signal is being aligned for? And so it's going to show us these two restrictions, just the summary information. And that is something that we have not yet done. And on a side note behind us, note that the signal at East Jim Gray has run its time, and it's now aligning into the hole for our westbound. So we've got these two restrictions, and no, we haven't given them to our train yet, so we're going to go ahead and answer no. And now this is where we're going to call up our train to let them know that we have two restrictions for the conductor to copy down. So we'll call them up. BNSF 7804, I have two restrictions to give you when you are ready to copy. And the conductor will grab his or her pen and is ready, so we'll say OK, and here comes the first one. And so BNSF 7804, do not exceed 10 miles per hour between milepost 793.0 and milepost 793.1 on main track, no flags displayed. And we'll listen for the repeat. Make sure that the repeat is good, and we'll go ahead and click OK and give them the OK time to record. And our second restriction is going to come up now. So BNSF 7804, also do not exceed 10 mph between milepost 793.5 and milepost 793.6 on main track, no flag is displayed. And we would listen for a good repeat on that, and we would click OK. Now, as soon as we do this and we've made it through all the restrictions, TSCAD remembers that we were requesting that signal at East Edwards, and so now that all those restrictions have been given out, when we click OK, it's going to go ahead and allow that signal to be aligned at the east end of East Edwards. And when it is aligned across a restrictive block, you notice that instead of green, it's kind of a dark teal color. That again is just bringing attention to the dispatcher so that he or she is aware of the fact that there's something else going down or going on right there. And we'll go ahead and keep the train, our Z train, moving at the west end of Silt. Now, we do have another maintainer down here, Foreman Smith, that's doing a little bit of patrolling, and we will get to Foreman Smith in just a minute to see if he's going to be making his way into the clear. Since we gave him track and time down to the west switch of Jim Gray and gave him the west switch of Jim Gray, it sort of suggests that we were thinking that he might go into the siding at Jim Gray. Obviously, that's not going to work now because we're planning a meet, so he's either going to have to set off along the way or maybe make it back up there to Boron if he's got time. But while we're still waiting to hear from him, what we're going to take a look at now is another feature that's added, and those are device blocks and OS blocks. So we talked about this train up here in the siding at Bissell. We noted him. It's an eastbound, and he has no crew at the moment. So one thing we might do is use F4 our info to just make a note, waiting for recrew, like so. That's a good note, but we don't want to just be kind of looking, oh, there's something in the siding, we need to do something with him. So something else that we might do is add a device block, and we use F7 for that to bring up our block. And basically the device block is we're going to prevent TSCAD from letting us throw that switch, or we'll say train tied down. So we put in just an indicator of a name for the device block and some notes, and we click apply. And that's going to show a little triangle that now appears above the turnout. And that's an indicator that that switch is now being blocked. And we can even do the same thing for this signal right here. And we'll do the same thing, 6912, train tied down, and click apply. So what that means now is that we cannot align this signal, which wouldn't matter because we'd have to throw the switch first. And at the moment, we can't even throw the switch. So if we click on that, it's going to give us an error. It says this turnout is currently blocked, cannot be thrown. So until we remove that block, until that block gets removed, the east switch of Bissell cannot be thrown for the siding. So that can be a helpful way for any trains that might be tied down, along with this tag here. And of course we can mouse over and see the train, and then we can also see under that info tag that it's waiting for a recrew. So we know that there's nothing that we need to be doing with it at the moment. And another type of block is an OS block. And so if we come down here to main 1, we use F8 for our OS block, and you see it still says block, but it adds OS into the cursor there. Maybe main 1 we're not going to be using right now, not just as a suggestion, but just flat out we're not going to use main 1. Main 1 out of service, let's just say. And apply that, and that changes that particular stretch of track purple. And if we go ahead and throw the turnout here and wait for that to throw, and then we'll attempt to align a signal onto main 1. And there we go. It's not going to allow us because it's saying this track is currently OS blocked. And so it's going to prevent anything from actually being aligned. So what we might actually do is go ahead and throw our turnout back to main 2 and hit F7 for a device block and wait for the turnout to finish throwing. And we might put this on here too, main 1 out of service, and apply that. And now we've got a device block on that turnout. So now we can't even throw the turnout in order to align anything onto main 1. All right, so now let's come back up here as we have been waiting on our track Foreman Smith, and Foreman Smith has just called in another restriction. This one's a crossing restriction. So we're going to hit F3 this time. F3 brings up the crossing restriction, and it's Highway 58. So, and that's located here in this block. So we're going to go ahead and click on the block, and this brings up the highway crossing. So we've got a lot of different options here for the crossing restriction. We could have that it's not working properly. Rule 6.32.2 procedure 2 applies. It could be that there's an activation failure, so it's not activating at all. It could be that it's been entirely disabled. We'd select that. Insufficient clearance. This is in an instance where there's not sufficient clearance between the end of a rail car and a grade crossing. And you see that that's actually rule 6.32.4. And you also notice that that's underlined. So we can get a little more info about that. We can click on that. And you can see that the procedure here says do not exceed 15 miles per hour approaching crossings until occupied. It says it applies if there is less than 250 feet of clearance between the end of a rail car and a grade crossing, except in the following states. So the distance varies a little bit in 4 states. It's a little bit more than 250 feet. Or that there's damaged crossbucks is the last one. But for any of these, we can go ahead and click on this and get the automatic crossing device not working properly. Rule 6.32.2 procedure 2, and it indicates what the train would need to do. in this situation. So here we'll say that the grade crossing is not working properly, and we'll say that this is at milepost 7, let's see here, we'll say 780, and that this is California 58, where this is occurring. It'll be in both directions, that it is restrictive, and we'll go ahead and click done. And I do believe that we've got a little bit of a bug happening here to us. So let's go ahead and give this another try. There we go. I have to take a look at that. So now we got our restriction created. Incidentally, similar with track and time, we can come in here and we can modify any tag if we need to modify it for one reason or another, or we could just flat out come in here and remove it. So if, for example, if we just added, let's create another tag, an information tag, test tag 2, done. And of course that changes to a 2. At any point when we're ready to remove a tag, we just right click and we go to tag remove, and we're going to remove that test tag 2. And we will go ahead and remove it, and we're going to confirm that we want to remove it, and we'll say yes, and that takes it off. And so Foreman Smith, since he's actually at that grade crossing, he's going to go ahead and set off for us right there at the crossing. And there we are, he is in the clear, but we still have our one restriction on there. And he calls us up to let us know that he's in the clear, so we'll go ahead and report him clear of track and time 1003. Between west boron switch no, westbound control signal west Jim Gray switch yes. And we'll say that is correct. And as before, there we go. We'll come down here, and once again, have the following restrictions been issued to the train? And no, because it was just set up. So we'd let him know that that train has something we need him to copy. Automatic crossing device not working properly at milepost 780, which is California Highway 58. Comply with Rule 6.32.2. And we'd have them repeat that back to us, and assuming it was okay, then we'd say all right. We'd get an okay time, and we'll go ahead and set up a route for him to keep him going. And into or down the main here at Jim Gray, and we'll set up a stack here, and we'll set up a stack for the westbound. And as soon as the stack is ready to execute for the westbound, before it actually will execute, TSCAD would bring up the dialog again for this restriction for our westbound, making sure that the westbound copied down the information that was necessary. So our eastbound has cleared the 2 speed restrictions that we have out there at Edwards. So we'll go ahead and zoom out here, and we have an overall look of things. Here's a quick demo. A few bugs, as you saw, to work out, but that's to be expected as development is still ongoing. They will get worked out, though. This could possibly be the last video for a while, not because work is stopping, but because most of the features that I want to build into demo are pretty close to being ready. So this is getting pretty close to what the end user experience is going to be, at least for the initial release. But there is still a lot of work that needs to be done behind the scenes with the communications with Run 8. There's a lot of other things that still need to happen, but it's kind of the boring stuff. It's not stuff that you can really see so much. It's the under the hood stuff. So that's why there may not be a video for a while, simply because there won't be anything to show with the under the hood stuff. But just don't be alarmed if you don't see a video for a while. It's not because work is slowing down or stopping in any way. It's just because it's the boring stuff that you don't have anything to show. So in the meantime, though, I hope you've enjoyed the update and you have an idea for what TSCAD is going to offer as soon as all these bugs are worked out and as soon as all the under the hood stuff is taken care of. I'm looking forward to getting it wrapped up here, getting it into beta, and then getting it released for everybody to use. In the meantime, do take care. Hope you have a good week, and talk to you later.